to order. Thank you, Christina. May I have a roll call, please? Director Maggs?
Here.
Director Kelly? Director Kelly?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm here.
Director Stella? Here. Director Gaffney?
Present.
Director Borstein?
Yes, ma'am. Here.
Thank you. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now I'd like to adjourn us to closed session, please. All right, I'd like to reconvene to open session. There's no action to report. I'd like to ask if anybody has any comments on the agenda, anything we need to remove, and if not,
No, I'd move
entertain
the
a
agenda.
motion.
I'd move the
Okay.
agenda.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Did you vote aye on the agenda, Doug?
Yes, I did vote aye.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7, public comment. Anybody wishing to address the Board of Directors may have 3 minutes. Is there any public who wishes to provide public comment this evening?
Right now, so I'll take the lead.
Oh, I'm appointing Tom Gaffney, Director Gaffney, to keep the time. Thank
I'm
you.
the
sir.
backup timer.
Yes, I will too. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
The dog is slipping.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, he's got 30
All
seconds.
Chairs are not good. Sorry, buddy. Stay with me. All right, reset. Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Mooney, 432 Oak Manor Drive in Fairfax, California. Good evening to President, Board, Directors, worker bees, more worker bees. Appreciate your time. I hope you're all doing well. The weather's changing. Happy spring tonight, 2 o'clock in the morning. We're ready for it. Winter's ready to move on, I think. Old man winter. So it looks like I have about 2 minutes left. Is that right? This is Buddy. Buddy, sorry about the chair.
I'm sorry, do you have nothing you wish to say to us?
I have
Are you
things to
just
say.
occupying? Okay,
I'm taking a breath.
okay.
I have 3 minutes. Correct?
Yeah, I just thought you would want to use them, so I didn't want to
I will
waste.
when I'm ready. Thank you. I have 3 minutes.
You've only got a minute and a half left.
I have a minute and 18 seconds, I believe. So I just want to let you know that I think the email I sent to you and everybody today speaks for itself. It's all the information. I have more to share, but I think it speaks for itself, and I would hope that you would be reasonable and look at it, have a discussion with yourselves, myself, and see what you can do to remedy this situation. Because I'm not going to go away. And, you know, the email will speak for itself. So please look at it, take your time, read it. It has documentation in there. I have more documentation. And I'm happy to share all that with you. And with 26 seconds left, anybody want to ask a question? No questions, no comments. It's just a comment.
No, I'll ask a question. I took many pictures and put them on a flash drive and gave them to your husband. Did you get that flash drive?
I did. I have not
Okay.
yet looked at them.
I have not
prefer-
looked at them?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I haven't had time, sorry,
Okay.
but I also would like to see it in person. And that was my agreement. So the email says.
The
I have
homeowner
4
doesn't want
seconds
you on their
left, so I'm
property,
just
so I
gonna say
couldn't take
thank
you on a
and
tour.
I'm going to say goodnight. Thank you. Time is up.
No, I'm
All
just saying, I can't take you on the tour because the homeowner refused.
It's not about the homeowner. You have the right to the easement. You have the right to go to the easement, and we'll just have to talk about that another
Okay.
time. So I'm out of
That's
time.
All
3
right.
minutes.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to make public comment this evening? All right, we'll move to agenda item number 8, committee and representative report out. Finance Committee. Tom, you want to tell us about our Finance Committee?
Okay, Finance Committee met yesterday. I hope you board members noticed the shortened version of the monthly financials. They're much more readable and show that we're in good shape. We heard from the O&M manager about the rationale for purchasing 3 new pumps at Pump Station 14. We got a very good price on them. And the pumps, it was very interesting, cost about $33,000 each. And every 3 years, they need a maintenance that costs between $15,000 and $19,000. So hopefully we're getting some, it's surprising the amount of cost versus how much the rehab is. We heard from our finance director that about creating a new accounting tech position will save us over $20,000 a year and allow us to hire a more junior accountant. We met some representatives from Zune Engineering, and they'll be the construction managers for the 24-25 gravity sewer project. And one of our agenda items is the closeout of the 23-24, and you'll see how much they have to do to figure out the final costs of a project like this. We went through it in detail. Quite interesting, a lot of work. So I think that's most of the things we did.
Absolutely. Thank you. Ad hoc interpretive sign committee. Michael, do you want to report or you want me to report on that?
We were given some different thoughts about, we were given some different thoughts about how we could proceed with this and what kind of interpretive signs might be available and what other options might be available. For instance, a possibility of having a bike workstation there. So when people stop a little bit across the way and eat their picnic lunch with their bicycles, they could pump up their tires or tighten a lug nut. And also thought about the possibility of putting in a water station there and maybe of working with county parks and rec about maybe having them do that. Maybe we supply the water, but any of that, we would talk to them and see if we could do a collaboration with them, because they seem to like to have water stations for the dogs and the bike riders and the runners. And we'll get back to that.
Yeah, we gave staff feedback on some items that were presented to us. Sort of, I feel like choosing the middle path between a very small, simple sign and then something that looked like, it was be like a shelter perhaps. But I'm excited about it. It's if you do go down that path ever, it's very near the end of my street, but a lot of bicyclists, joggers, everything, dog walking go by. Currently, we have the 125th anniversary sign out. And so I think it's an opportunity to educate the public about what the Ross Valley Sanitary District does and what that pump station in particular does. And we're kind of trying to make the sign look sort of like something that you would see at a national park that tells you about the park, to, align us with, this is an environmental element, an engineering feat and an environmental element that pumps almost all the wastewater from the entire Ross Valley down along there. So I think it's going to be a good public outreach opportunity, basically. And looking to not spend too much staff time or too much ongoing staff time on it, or too much money overall. Steve looks happy. And the other Christina did a lot of work on it, Velasquez. So she was there. It was nice to see more of the staff members than we typically see. CMSA.
All
Doug.
right. We had received a grant of $2.5 million for the co-digester program, which we received from the state. And we have to certify that we got it and we did the work, or we have to give the money back. So we happily certified that the work was done. And so that paid for, it was a $3 million job, if I remember. So I think it was 2.5 of the 3 million So that was a fantastic grant opportunity. We took it and it's now done and closed. Chlorine contact tank number 4 and primary clarifier number 2 and 3, coatings and concrete rehab. That was a weird one because we had 5 bids. Let me bring that up. We had 5 bids and we had to reject 2 of them. So 2 of them, National Coating and Linings, were below. Top line engineers were way below engineer estimate, but they were found to not be in compliance. And in particular, there's a bunch of yes and no questions. And our document says if you say yes to any of these, you can't bid. Or if you say no to any of these, you can't bid. And there's no discretion there. And I think one of them said yes to one of those. And that had gone up through state court somewhere else where one of the agencies said, well, we consider that minor. It said, yeah, your contract says if you say yes to any of these, you can't bid. If you say no to any of these, you can't bid. There's no discretion. So one of them was no discretion. The other one was just not in compliance. But at any rate, the engineer's estimate was 1.342 and Eurostyle Management picked it at 1.277. So they were 4% below. There was also one from FD Thomas, which was 26% above. So it was wildly, the top line engineers came in at 26% below. Yikes. So that was that. Anyway, so we're moving forward and we'll get that work done. We had a capital projects update on the nutrient removal alternative evaluation, grit classifier program, and the centrifuge replacement project. So if there may be other ways to get the nutrients down. If you all remember, the state has required all the agencies in the Bay Area to remove many more nutrients than we are because of the red bloom that's happening, which is taking away the oxygen, which is killing the fish. Most of that's happening in the South Bay. But they've directed all of the Bay Area agencies to get ready to put a program together to remove the nutrients. And there may be other ways to do it than build a huge, ginormous plant there. There may be alternatives. So that's really a work in progress. I don't want to get into too much details. So that's good news because we don't really have $100 million. And oh shoot, because I just lost the first page. And yeah, then it was just informational items. So that was really about it. Nothing much else.
Are they going ahead with that study to put the hydrogen peroxide or whatever it is in the recycled water
We
line?
voted on that the previous month. There was no report in this month's.
Okay. I mean, isn't the project stopped?
I don't know.
Well, the Oak Hill project has some funding challenges. And so what they're wanting to do is they want to have the County of Marin guarantee 25% of the rents and the school districts responsible for 75%. The TAM district has just announced they're not going to participate in that. And we'll see what the other school districts are doing. But in effect, if there's an apartment not occupied, then the school district would have to pay the rent.
Yeah.
And that, they did a study. I spoke to somebody I respect very well, that they did a study in Mill Valley and asked the teachers how many of them would like to live right next door to their boss. And the answer was none. So, we'll see if it's viable or it's not viable. But anyway, so, I don't know what's going to happen with that, but the study is going forward.
Right.
Okay.
We did allocate the money for that. Okay, North Bay Watershed Association. Pam.
Okay, we met on March 7th. There was 23 of us. I have the list if you want to look at it. Andy Rogers, the incredible executive director, brought forward a work program for the next year. So we sort of did a roundtable of suggesting different things that we would like to see or know about. So if you have any ideas, you can send them to me or Steve, and we'll send them up to Andy Rogers. See what else is on here. We also, he talked about some legislation. The group is really does not typically take positions on legislation, but he brought some up. One is about the California Safe Drinking Water Act. One is stormwater reuses and irrigation, PFAS, microbeads, tribal water use, and another one, AB 362, which is about water rights. So I guess he's going to bring information more about what's going on, but we really don't do anything. We just talk about it. We also will get our scholarship program up and going April 1st. So we'll start to receive applications if you want to, apply, and for grants. So it should be online April 1st to the application, so you could apply that way. And then besides the grants, we also will be convening with the North Bay Environmental Education Roundtable. And then we'll finalize our work plan. This is for different things that we want to do. Somebody's talking about Point Reyes having issues with water. Solano County has issues with these little mussels that are pretty bad and invasive. And I'm hoping that we could get involved with the tribes, because we have not been involved with the tribes before. And then we'll have our next conference in 26. And so we'll start planning for that probably relatively soon. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve or Felicia, I sent you an email that had all of the different water bills that were talked about with the links to the actual water bill themselves. Maybe you could send them to the board. Thank you.
All right. Item number 9, verbal report by general manager.
Thank you, President Silla and members of the board. I've got about 6 or 7 items here, but they'll go quickly. First, the Larkspur Landing property, you declared exempt surplus last month, and the work group met a couple times. And the one thing I'd like to update you on was an update of the timeline for Larkspur Landing and when you can expect things to come before you in the coming months. Now that we've declared the land as surplus and exempt, over the next couple of months, this quarter, April to June, our team at Century Urban is developing a request for qualifications, an RFQ document, and that could come before you as soon as May of this year, maybe June. We'll see how that goes, and then that would initiate a RFQ response period where qualified applicants will furnish qualifications and some vision of what they think they would do with the property as a development team. And there would be site tours and presentation for potential respondents. This would all occur in the July to September timeframe. And we would also, during that time, evaluate RFQ responses and conduct interviews and develop a short list. And after that, we would, in the fourth quarter, October to December this year, draft and issue a request for proposals, an RFP, to the shortlisted developers. And there would be a response period for that, which would be in the fourth quarter of this year into the next year, January to March. And then evaluation of responses and interviews would be between January and March of next year. And the recommendation for a selection of a preferred developer about that time. And so it wouldn't be until the April to June period that we would actually be negotiating and executing transaction documents with the preferred developer. So there's some time to go. There's 2 periods. And that's the shortened version. The longer version would have been if we just declared surplus and then entertained the Surplus Lands Act and the different negotiations with the different, the 90 days of good faith negotiations and all this. Remember, we talked about that. By declaring exempt surplus, that takes us right into this RFQ and then subsequent RFP process. But that will still take until the beginning of next year before we have tangible recommendations for potential partners or developers. So much road to cover ahead. But the next time you should see something is in May and maybe June. We'll see how the pace goes. The next item, the generator was installed here at 1111 Anderson, and we're almost ready for backup power. We still have the automatic transfer switch. The ATS unit is still delayed to be delivered, but the latest is we expect next month, sometime in April, that we'll have backup power at last here at 1111 Anderson. So that's good news. And thanks to Paul Brummer for really leading the charge on getting that project almost done. Third item is today we uploaded the 45-day technical report for the force main spill that I just described in detail last month. And it was also featured in the GM bulletin in February. The 45-day report was about 110 pages long. It was quite an effort. Thanks staff for supplying me with graphics and a rundown of what happened and ideas for short and long-term corrective actions. But what's interesting about this case, well, many things, but it's a secondary force main. And so we don't have to, we're not in any hurry to replace it. It's something that we use in wet weather conditions to enhance flexibility. It's not critical infrastructure, but it's useful. So our pace of rectifying the situation, repairing it or rehabilitating it, it's not an urgent project, but I have put $200,000 as a placeholder in next year's budget to do at least a repair. But we're looking at long-term corrective actions too. So more to come on that. For now, we're fine. We don't have to have it, but we want to replace it at some point. The fourth thing, I want to thank Andrea Clark for her service as our district council for 10 years. That her anniversary was yesterday, but sadly, she's let us know that she's taken a new job working for River Partners up in the Sacramento Valley. And so this will be Andrea's last board meeting with us. We'll miss her dearly, and I just wanted to publicly thank her on behalf of staff.
That'd be 236. Is that what it is?
This might be her 270th meeting. Joined the board in March of 2015, joined the Ross Valley Sanitary District as district council in 2015 in March. So thank you, Andrea, for being here, showing up. And yes, and a lot of great work on Larkspur Landing too. We're really glad that she helped us navigate some of those new laws that were passed in the last couple of years, and she helped us stay on top of things, among many other things that she's done for the district. And the ratepayers had a great deal. We'll miss her. Fifth, I'd like to let you know about interesting infrastructure opportunity, I guess we call it. Board members here are familiar with MIRA and actually serve on MIRA, the Marin Emergency Radio Authority, right? Thank you. Well, one of the radio towers is being decommissioned for most radio communications. It's known as the Forbes Tower. It's right on the boundary of San Rafael Sanitation District and our district along the Miracle Mile. It's a hill there that's north, and it's on Hepburn Heights. And there's a water tank there. There's a radio tower, and there's also a building that housed radio equipment that's now empty except for one little radio that says Ross Valley and Las Galinas, because we share it. And so for this, we have an FCC licensed frequency for our radio communication. And so if we let them decommission this last antenna and radio that's at this facility, we would have to go through a painstaking process to reinstate it. And so the county folks met us this week. Felicia joined us so she could see the property. It was pretty nice. And needs some weed whacking though, needs some landscape work. But it has a generator and a propane tank, and that we checked, it was about 23% full. So we need to fill that thing up. But we're the last agency standing. The property is owned by Marin Municipal Water District, and there's the water tank there. And so the next step is really for them. Since December, we've been trying to get the lease arranged with MMWD just to keep this functionality going. This really is something we value, the ability to communicate, especially in our terrain where the cell phone coverage is spotty. Having this radio communication capability actually is really important to us, but we need that backup power. So it has a generator and a fuel tank. And so we
I'm
need
sorry, can you explain this a little bit? Is this a booster signal or is this an actual radio?
it's a radio.
But the reason Mira was formed to put in the new radio system is because the FCC is taking away their wavelength. So that wavelength is going to be sold. That's why they didn't do it for any other reason except they want to sell it commercially. So that radio is going to be defunct.
Not ours.
No,
Yeah,
no,
no, not ours. No, we will not be defunct. We have the antenna, we have the FCC licensed frequency, and Las Colinas and us are staying at that location. And so it's a fascinating situation. There's a radio tower with lots of vacant posts, nodes where someone could put an antenna. Ours is the lone one left, and the building's empty except for one little radio rack mount. But for us staying there, it would have been demolished, and the cost of reproducing it would probably be $250,000 or more. So we're keeping it going. It might be an opportunity for others, to be able to enhance radio communications in the future, or other tower needs, such as there's a lot of folks interested in a more fine, local, granular ability to respond to changing weather conditions and to forecast rain on a more micro scale. It helps with emergency response. There's some relevancy to that in the Ross Valley because we get predictions of 1 inch of rain and then 4 inches fall, and so when you have a more granular network for weather monitoring, that might be something that this tower could help folks with in the future. Who knows? But for the now, thanks to Paul's efforts and working with Heather over at Mira, and the county have been great. They're handing over the site in good shape to us. And we're going to, next step is finalize a lease with MMWD on that property. And then we will have to maintain it for the generator, the fuel tank, and moderate landscaping, but we would just add this site to the other pump station sites as far as keeping it from becoming a nuisance.
Steve, this came before the Mira board, and luckily Steve had informed me exactly what was going on. And I talked to our general manager there, and she was all in favor of very much so. But at the board, are we going to have to demolish this? Are we going to lose the responsibility? They thought it was a great deal that this is being transferred to us. And I think it's a great deal that we got our own radio system, because we were worried, when I first heard, oh my God, yeah, we're leaving there. But anyway, they're leaving all the equipment and the tank and everything for us. And as Las Colinas, we own it then, right?
Well, we'll lease the site and we'll be the primary. They wanted one entity to come forward, and
okay,
we're closer. We're active with our radio use, but they benefit as well.
So it's a lease that we've got. And what about the facilities? We lease those or we own them? I thought they were turning them over to us. But anyway.
Yeah, they are. The building, the generator, and the fuel tank. Okay. Yeah, it's a known quantity. It works. We use it because cell phone doesn't cut it in many parts, like the Sleepy Hollow. Cell phones are useless sometimes. So at any rate, it's interesting infrastructure development, and we checked out the site. It looks good, looks manageable, and we can add it to our responsibilities, site management responsibilities. Finally, last thing is and you already mentioned the interpretive sign committee, so I don't have to repeat that. It's a good report. We're having the business breakfasts. You might remember that's an outreach initiative. And so we have a couple of them planned. The first one is in March 28th with agency staff. And so we have the group of public works, planning and building departments, over 5 jurisdictions. When we go to CASA and talk to our fellow sanitary districts, I've yet to meet a sanitary district that has as many jurisdictions as we do.
That hasn't what?
Has as many jurisdictions as we do. We have 5. Most sanitary districts overlap with 1 or 2 cities or something like that. And there are exceptions. There's bigger systems like Orange County, but we're pretty exceptional as far as having to deal with 5 different jurisdictions and different building departments, planning departments, and public works. So I guess, an agency of our size having that many jurisdictions is unusual, I'll just say. So this is a useful outreach opportunity. They went really well last year. We had great feedback, and it's just a way of communicating our expectations in our lateral ordinance implementation, coordinating with the different departments on, you name it. We always learn something when we get together as far as what is being planned in the future and what we can coordinate. Looking forward to that. Thanks to Felicia and Phil is playing a big role in this outreach effort, and appreciate their efforts. And that's one of our business plan priorities. Okay, well, that's it. Thanks for the opportunity to update you on these things going on in the district.
Thank you, Steve. Any comments, board members?
No.
I don't know if this is the right time, but I want to commend Steve and Phil for having an hour-long open discussion about this huge project in Fairfax. The businesses got a hold of me. They were very worried and upset, actually, because they're struggling, and there'll be parts of downtown Fairfax that at times it'll be tight. And so then Steve got in touch with the Chamber of Commerce. This is such a win-win, the whole thing. We videotaped it. I was there. I didn't say much, but you guys really answered their questions in layman's term. In other words, kept it very simple and clear, and they loved it. And so you can now watch the video if you want.
On that same topic, I've been emailing Heather Abrams, the town manager, and I'm going to go to open time because people read this capacity enhancement and they're like, oh my gosh, Ross Valley Sanitary is trying to build these high rises. And of course, the capacity enhancements are for stormwater. And we could double the population of San Anselmo and Fairfax and we would be just fine. It's the stormwater intrusion where rather than 9 million gallons a day, CMSA got 129 million. That was a couple of years ago, but recently 117 million.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it's about. So I'm going to go talk to that so I can make sure everybody knows it's not because we're trying to, build high rises in Fairfax.
Great. I think we've merged into number 10, verbal report by board members and requests for future items. But
We jumped into it.
Which is great. Do either of you have any requests for future items? No. Okay, great. Any other verbal reports or requests for future items? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Anyone have anything they'd like to pull from the consent calendar this evening? All right, then
The consent calendar.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Item number 12, consideration of approving and authorizing general manager upon review and approval of council, not Andrea, to execute a consultant agreement, services agreement, presumably. Okay. With the Zune Engineering Incorporated for construction management services for the FY 24-25 gravity sewer improvements project in an amount not to exceed $597,996.
Well, good.
Phil.
So I'll have Phil, you can go ahead and introduce the item there. I'll just say that we did award the contract for the project last month, but we knew that they weren't going to mobilize until late March at the earliest. And so it gave us chance to interview and talk to some potential construction management firms. And with that, Phil, could you introduce the item?
Sure. So yes, the item before you tonight is for a consultant services agreement with Zune for CM services during the FY 24-25 gravity sewer improvements project, which we just awarded to Glossage Engineering. The amount not to exceed is $597,996. That comes in at 7.2% of the engineer's estimate for construction and 9.7 of the awarded contract value for the project, which was $6.14 million. Yeah, we've reached out to Zune to diversify our CM portfolio a little bit and get additional spread the work out a little bit. We have a number of capital projects this year, and we wanted to add another one to the fold. Zune came. I learned of Zune from the contractor that was awarded the contract for the 24-25 gravity sewer improvements project, and Brian McRae was a project manager for a couple of projects with them, working for the city of Albany. And I spoke with the city of Albany and some other references, and they came highly recommended for their responsiveness and in terms of quick communication during construction projects, as well as timely processing of progress payments, change orders, all of those things that really can eat up a lot of time during a project. They are very responsive and quick on that. Spoke with Brian and Saeed on the phone. Is just Saeed, or is there is Brian on as well?
It's just me, Phil. I guess Brian couldn't connect several times. It's right. So I'm available for any questions.
Right, no worries. So yeah, I introduced Saeed Shamirzai with Zune, and we had some great conversations about working with Glossage, and we understand, the kind of contractor that we're working with. Their pace of work is not like what you see with many contractors in a good way. And they're up to the challenge of moving quickly and keeping documentation at a high level, not letting anything fall through the cracks, and again keeping that communication going. And yeah, Saeed, if you have anything that you'd like to add, please.
Great, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Saeed Shamirzai with Zune Engineering. We are ready to hit the ground running for this project. We have done identical work for City of Albany and City of Concord with sewer lines, pipe bursting, pipe reaming, and working within close proximity of private properties inside the right-of-way, doing lateral connections. So we can definitely hit the ground running and working with the contractor that we have worked before. We have established relationship, providing them clear and timely direction so that we can keep the job moving and hopefully below the budget that you have.
Thank you. Saeed and Brian came to the finance committee meeting too yesterday, so we've already met. Board members, any questions about this?
Is this the first time we've worked with Zune? Great. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've used SOMAS a lot recently. I asked Phil about this yesterday, but we have SOMAS in mind for something else that's going to come up, and so we are spreading the wealth. But having just completed a lot of work in the city of Albany, which is a residential, dense, hilly area, I'm confident that they can do this work on my street. All right. Any other questions?
I'd move to approve and authorize the general manager, upon review and approval of council, to execute a consultant service agreement with Zune Engineering Incorporated for construction management services for the fiscal year 24-25 gravity sewer improvement project, which is project number 958, an amount not to exceed $597,996.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening, Said.
Thanks. Thank you.
Saeed, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Sure. Bye.
All right, item number 13, consideration of terminating the emergency action adopted in resolution number 25-1664 for the rehabilitation of the storm damaged sewer main and lower laterals at 125 through 137 Hillside Avenue in Kentfield. Steve?
Yes. So we declared the emergency last month. We've spoken about the tree that fell and the sewer that broke and the fact that
Fallen tree, yeah.
we need it's in Kentfield, real close to the Ross border. And that work was completed very soon during that board meeting week because it was an emergency. We needed to get laterals reinstated and the main that was really had a lot of problems replaced. Basically, we used our capitalized repair budget to replace it, and thank the board for declaring the emergency. It made us be able to be more responsive to the homeowners that had some challenges. And Phil, we did put in the final cost. It was $58,000, which isn't within the general manager's spending authority for construction, but it's there for your information. And Phil, do you have any other details of the project you want to share with the board?
Yeah, really glad to get 165 feet of pipe replaced. This was a high frequency cleaning line that, apart from getting ripped out of the ground with by that tree falling over and destroying the rod hole access point there, it was already a problematic line. There were some 90-degree fittings in line with this, and J&G contractor took care of it and did a great job. There was a bit of open cut that was unexpected. We were able to pipe burst about 120 feet of it and had to open cut about 45 feet. And that was to remove those bends and create a more gradual slope down to the manhole on Hillside. There's a brand new manhole up there, and now PG&E can get to work, hopefully doing something with their high pressure gas line that's suspended in midair right now. Yeah.
Great.
I'll
And
make
any
a
questions?
motion.
No, good work.
One question. Who paid to remove the tree? Did the
So
homeowner?
the tree, I don't know exactly the address, but I believe it was, so it's whichever property the
Property.
tree originates on. The roots, the location of where the sewer main was, it was not that property owner. It was the one just downhill from
Below-
there.
Yeah.
And the
It wasn't
tree,
us.
yeah, she
God.
that property owner hired a arborist that came out and removed the tree. The root ball is still there because it has a gas line running into it and maybe other things we don't know.
I'd like to make a motion.
Sure.
I
Turn on-
move that we terminate the emergency action adopted on resolution 25-1664 for rehab of the storm damaged sewer and lower laterals at 125 through 137 Hillside Avenue in Kentfield.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Item number 14, consideration of approving contract change orders 4 and 5 in the amount of $1,071,834.60. Adopt resolution number 25-1667, approving final acceptance and authorizing the general manager to file notice of completion for the FY 23-24 gravity sewer improvements project with Glossage Engineering. Steve.
Yes, this was last year's project, which covered a lot of locations in Green Bay and San Anselmo and it had a history of adding some work. And so this is the final balancing change orders that capture a great deal of complexity, that we encountered in these different neighborhoods. We started the project out in Austin and Ross Avenue near the seminary in San Anselmo. And that was an area we discovered that had a ton of abandoned lateral connections that were basically just conduits for stormwater and groundwater to go directly into the sewer system. And we saw, as we moved, into areas of Fairfax near Sir Francis Drake and Taylor Avenue, we added some lines. You approved some changes. We expanded the Adalia area in San Anselmo, or we actually included that area and then expanded it in two separate change orders about a year ago. And then, so it's been opportunistic because these were really urgent matters that we identified in the field that we addressed. And we also addressed an issue at Yolanda, which was a big sewer sag that was causing problems for the residences there. And Phil jumped on that opportunity. And that was done with the bid allowance. And then Mitchell, which was a chronic area up in Fairfax, further up toward White Hill, Mitchell Avenue, this asbestos cement pipes that have been giving maintenance staff a headache for years. We addressed those areas. But that doesn't even get to all of the details that we showed you in this item, which I worked with Phil and worked with our CM Somas to really carefully detail in these different areas where we worked what the quantities were that we bid and then what we actually put in the ground. So I want to thank Phil for a lot of work pulling this together for you all. But this was part of the tally. I've mentioned that, we did an extraordinary amount of rehabilitation last year. In calendar year 2024, we put 4.4 miles of new sewer in the ground. That's a 2% rate or more or better for us, which is very aggressive and not really something we can commit to year after year. And doing this project with this contractor, with this team was really what helped make it happen. There is a price tag at the end, because of all of these different extras. And then, I want to hand it off to Phil to tell some great stories about kind of some highlights of what extra work was accomplished with these numbers. But it wasn't it wasn't a change order situation where, we forgot things or overlooked things. This was actually opportunistic addition of needed sewer improvements in the vicinity where the work we were already doing. So with that, Phil, any additional comments or overview you have for the board on this notice of completion package?
Sure. Yeah. So to speak first to the change orders 4 and 5 that are for your consideration tonight, change order 4 includes some change order 5 is the final balancing change order. Change order 4 wraps up some of the issues that came up during construction. Highlights from that was investigating unknown laterals. So this item was the biggest issue that you'll see. The streets that are listed were mostly in San Anselmo, a little bit in Green Bay, but mostly in San Anselmo along Austin Avenue and Ross and Sunnyside. We were encountering many situations where on video, there would be a tap, a point of connection, a Y into our main that appeared to be live, meaning there was a considerable amount of water coming out of that connection, even though on the plans, there is no lateral there. And when we check the houses nearby and we've located their laterals, it's not showing up as one of those. The contractor then has to dig up that location to verify, is this a live lateral or what's going on here? We encountered, so they then dig it up, put a camera up the lateral until they can find a place where they can make a determination whether it's actually live or this is just inflow. We encountered a great
19.
Board packet page 80.
Yeah.
Yeah. 29 on Ross and Sunny.
29.
29.
Is this when
29
people
of
are
these.
replacing their laterals and they don't get rid of the old one?
So yeah, we had a lot of speculation about there's a lot of multi-unit housing that's changed there over the years. So we think along the school there was some some changes to the land, the landscape there as far as multi-unit housing and a lot of single family units that were converted to multi-unit along the seminary in that area. Things have changed there over the years. There's a lot more housing, and I think that or facilities in general that are no longer there. That's kind of what we can attribute it to. But yeah, we just would TV up these lines and then would encounter rock or a point where we can call it quits and know that we don't need to reconnect this line because it's not someone's sewer service. So that happened many times out in San Anselmo, more an inordinate amount for whatever reason. We do encounter these from time to time. Most of the time they are frequently capped some way back. For whatever reason, many of these were not capped and were a huge source of inflow and infiltration to the tune of, half a pipe flow coming out. Many of them, I mean, even the contractor was blown away. They're like, look at this, it's wild. Like there's this much I&I coming in. You could see it right in front of your eyes. And that was each one of those laterals was, it was very much appeared active. So that was change order number 4 highlights. When you look at change order number 5, so this is the final balancing change order. This is the final accounting for the project. You'll see many credits, also many charges where we went over a certain amount of footage or we had less footage on areas than our contract documents showed. So this is natural that, you call out 220 feet of pipe bursting and it's only 217 feet. So you adjust it by 3 feet. So there's a lot of that. We did have an issue with the contractor's camera. One of the ways that we measure footages for payment in any contract, there's a measure in payment. We go off of the footage that comes on the contractor's reel as they're counting, as they're feeding in a camera. There's a reel for the cord that tallies up the footage. They discovered that their reel needed to be recalibrated a little bit too late. They ended up having to redo a good amount of footage. They re-TV'd it, pulled the cable out, and then physically measured the cable, which is not something that can be faked. Our third-party inspectors with SOMAS were there. They wheeled it off, walked it out, marked out the footage, and there's some accounting for that in here. We have a pretty substantial change for hot mix asphalt. So throughout the project,
Board packet 85, second line down, line 9.
that one is kind of a catch-all for all of the paving work that was in any of the added areas that would have not been accounted for, and also just overages in various areas to comply with county or town standards, whether it be a moratorium or otherwise. It's kind of hard to, fully account for that when you put together construction documents, but good amount for paving. Ross and Sunnyside, we were able to extend all the way to the end of Sunnyside, and as we discovered, pipes that were in terrible condition, as we TV'd up and around, our contractor was good at pointing out some issues in that area that we were able to address that were directly adjacent to the project. A similar situation with an easement off of Corte Comoda. There was a pipe that had not been accessed. There were access issues in this easement, and our contractor being there by virtue of them having to do this project, they were able to TV up this main and discovered some very significant defects that needed to be addressed immediately. Luckily, they were able to get in there and pipe burst things very quickly, while one of the homeowners that was particularly vocal about us being there, well, they happened to be on vacation. So that was the kind of a win of one of the highlight victories for that project. I would say was they had just wrapped up as the homeowner was pulling in through their traffic control and honking at them, and we had just gotten out of the backyard easement.
Yeah, and so those two examples Phil gave were table 13 on page 94, board packet 94, and table 15 on board packet 95. So he's highlighting the areas that had larger change order costs. So the Corte Comoda was 116,000, of the million, and money well spent. That easement was in between two streets, Manor and
Corte Comoda.
Okay, yes, and there was easement between them. So we had the line on Corte Comoda, we had the line on Manor, but there was another line that was parallel up behind the houses, and we were there. It was a good one to fit in, and also fit in when the vacation was happening. So it was a surgical achievement, but like Phil said, it had so many defects and was difficult for maintenance. And so by putting in the new pipe, we take away the need to go to that yard often for maintenance, and so it's like two birds.
Yeah. And then the last thing to highlight for that balancing change order, the Los Cerros easement, we had kind of cherry picked the worst of the worst pipes that we could find in that area.
Table 19 on page 97.
Item number 19. $74,000 was the change there. During construction, we realized a significant number of defects on one of the mains in this easement. We also discovered that one of the properties there had a entire area drain from their driveway, as well as all their downspouts, and the whole French drain alongside a private road was draining into the sanitary sewer. We were able to correct that by replacing the main. The homeowner took care of the work privately on their own to reroute their storm drain system, but this was an area that was directly upstream of the overflow at 515 Los Cerros. So it
no doubt,
call it a smoking gun, but it definitely was a big part of the issue that we saw out there, because this would have taken in an enormous amount of stormwater during that wet weather event.
Did the homeowner know it was going to the sewer?
They were pretty oblivious to it. They had purchased the house after that work had been performed, and it tracked with records that I could find that they were just telling us nonsense. And luckily they were already replacing their upper lateral with glossage. They had sought a private agreement with them, and I believe they went with glossage to correct their other issues as well. So I think it all worked out pretty well for everybody, and they had some other things to take care of as well. So it's a good project for them, I think, too. But yeah, so that's wrapping up those change orders, 4 and 5. Overall, I mean, project was a great success. We were able, the total change orders for the project at 1.7 million. What that got us, I had footages written down somewhere. but just over, I think it was close to 4,200 added feet of pipe replaced. So a very good value to go and bid that work. You'd be thrilled to get that bang for the buck. And this was all done on a rapid time scale while we're already in your backyard. We're not gonna have to come back. No, we'll just do it right now, take care of it. And yeah, so the overall the project moved along very smoothly with Glossage, and with Somas doing the CM. We received very few complaints from property owners. There were, for the project of this scale, I would say it was very smooth.
That's great. Thank you very much. Any questions, board
Oh, that's great.
members?
Love to hear
You
it.
know, we discussed this at our last meeting and look at all the work that goes into, finalizing this. And this is what the construction manager and our engineer put together. I mean, all this detail, when you think about it. And it protects us. We get our money's worth out of the project.
So yeah, I'll make a motion.
Great.
I move that we approve contract change order numbers 4 and 5 in the net amount of $1,071,834.60. Adopt resolution number 25-1667, approving final acceptance and authorizing the general manager to the notice of completion for the fiscal year 23-24 gravity sewer improvements project with Glossage Engineering Incorporated, and to authorize release of the 5% retention within the 35-day lien period.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you, board members.
Performance metrics monthly report, operations and maintenance. Take it away, Paul.
Good evening, board members,
Good
council,
evening.
and staff. Thank you for your time tonight. First of all, as always, we'll start off with some training. Staff received hearing conservation training, making sure they're using proper hearing protection in the field. We have a lot of loud equipment, jackhammers, vac trucks, all that's really important part of the job. We also had an on-site mobile hearing test truck so that they can actually track where staff's if they're having any hearing loss or whatnot, make sure we're tracking that, and also just give us a baseline from when they start and when they start, make sure staff are using their hearing protection and whatnot. Very important part, like, as you know, very noisy business out there. The pump station crew, as we're working with some of the new software, Esri, like you guys approved last month, we're starting to upgrade some of our CMMS and inventory. So staff have been really working hard to categorize and count, label, document all the spare parts we have for the pump stations. Really want to get to an interactive point with our inventory where staff takes a piece of equipment, we can reorder it right off the bat, get to reorder counts and make sure we have what we need when we need it. Before there had been a box here and a box there. So we're really trying to make sure that only one person knows where everything's at, and on call can get to it. It's labeled. So really important part of the pump station is making sure we have the critical spare parts. So we've been working really hard to make good tracking sheets, label it, and store it in a place where everybody can get to it and know where it's at. Line maintenance staff recovered a 2-foot piece of sewer cleaning auger and rod off of Magnolia Avenue in Larkspur. Staff used some of our hybrid nozzles and actually recovered this. It's kind of like a rodder with a rod, but it uses the hydrojet to spin the cutters to either cut out roots or push out debris. And they just happened to come across this. So it was a good find. This was a source of a sewer spill for sure. This thing had blades on it and a big piece of cable catching rags, catching roots, and everything else coming down the system. So a really good catch.
Where did it come from, do we think?
Yeah.
It might have been ours from the past, possibly, but there's no guarantees. But we found it. And then over off of Piedmont Avenue in Larkspur, staff had been doing some flushing up there and looking around for about 45 minutes, almost an hour, looking for one of our castings. You know, as we stated before, you know, it's a high priority for us to try to find lost nodes. Well, this is kind of a particular item because this was part of a remodel project. And the homeowner had requested from Phil a year or two ago to not have our casting in her front yard. Phil explicitly told her, no, we're not going to do that. Come to find out, she decided
She did it anyway.
to make her own custom hidden cover and removed our casting. So I reached out to the homeowner. Unfortunately, the lady that Phil had been working with had sold the house right after the remodel. So we're going to work with the homeowner and try to come to a resolution and try to make it very nice for them and put back our casting so we can actually find it. So, you know, always something interesting out there in the field for the line maintenance crew. They're always finding something.
You could use one of our fancy new 125th anniversary covers.
I don't think they want that. It's way up in the canyon, yeah?
Yeah.
Way up in Baltimore Canyon, okay.
And then the repair crew, as always, they've really been, you know, wet weather, like we said, a lot of manhole rehabilitation, a lot of point repairs. We're still working hard to any visible voids we find, any grade 5s, we're trying to patch them immediately, as well as work on some of our high frequency cleaning repairs to minimize cleaning and really get staff out there to continue doing more meaningful work out there in the field besides just chasing our tail every 6 months, flushing these lines, flushing the same lines, which isn't good for the pipelines. And, you know, it's really a resource drag on us. So repair crew have done a really good job with that. And the CCTV staff work to do a condition assessment of the failed point of the force main behind Bon Air. We actually opened that up and got about 100 feet either direction, 50 each direction. And it really helped with the troubleshooting what happened out there. And it really opened our eyes to showing us what the condition of the rest of the pipe is. Because once you get past this high point, you can really see where the water line was and everything. And the pipe looks way better, 100% better down the line. So it was really good to see that, you know, we have a viable condition farther down the line where we can do possibly a repair. And yeah, so they worked really hard on that, put a good report together, did some GPSing, and worked with Phil to do some other surveying out there to identify and draw up the location of the pipe and the problem spots. And then in February, of course, you know, the one large spill. I won't go through the whole large detail of it because I'm sure you guys have heard of it. But like Steve said, we worked really hard and put out together our technical report. So this is kind of the end of this spill period, hopefully. And this month is going good so far. Knock on wood.
I'll read the report.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be interesting.
And then
110
Andrea,
pages?
like last but
100.
not least, thank you so much for listening to me for almost 3 years now, if you can believe that. But thank you for sitting there and listening to me babble all this time. So I really appreciate you and everything you've done for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Any
Paul.
questions?
Any questions, board members?
Nope.
Thanks, Paul. It's a
Thank you
great
so much.
report, always.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Let's see.
Well, you know, on the fog, are we way behind on fog? We're 53.58% of the year. We've only got 17% of our fog reviews. That's CMSA.
That's
isn't it?
CMSA.
That's CMSA, but they do it kind of in the quarterly inspection round because they also take care of other districts and other areas. So they'll bounce around back to us.
Oh.
A lot of ours end up getting done more towards the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. Okay, yep.
All right. Our next meeting is April 16th at 5 p.m. here. All right. Thank you again, Andrea. We are adjourned.